And a good morning to you, Lanny Ford, right here on the bottom line. Flying solo this morning. Rocking my Panther stuff, even though they're not very good this year, in case you've noticed. They got to do something about the offensive line if they're going to be able to play and compete. And it looks like they've got a ways to go before they can get there. Glad to have you along. As far as I know, Mr. Rimmert will be back with me tomorrow. We do have Juju Phillips going to join me shortly, talk a little LR football and some other things. Let me get you some headlines from today. I promised I would do this. Try to do something every day, give you something to think about, if nothing else. But one of the things, in case you hadn't heard, just a couple of headlines out here. Mel Tucker, I think, got fired at Michigan State over sexual harassment allegations. That's going to go for a while, so we'll find out where that goes. He's denying everything, says it was mutual. You know, when you say mutual, that means that something happened. You're just disputing what happened. Also, former NFL wide receiver at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Williams, has passed away at the age of 36. He was hospitalized in intensive care after an accident at a construction site inside at Tampa, left him partially paralyzed. The mother of his 8-year-old daughter, Tierney Lyle, reported that he was taken off of the ventilator. Williams was from Buffalo, played at Syracuse, came on the scene as a fourth-round pick in 2010. He caught 65 passes, 964 yards, and 11 touchdowns. His touchdown reception total set the single-season club mark at the time for any player and wound up being second in Offensive Rookie of the Year. So finished his career with 223 catches, 3,089 yards, 26 touchdowns in 63 games, and 4 years with the Bucs, 1 year with the Bills. So thoughts and prayers out for that family. I don't remember exactly all the details. I saw it over the weekend, but it's a tragic accident. No need to say anymore. We'll let that go as is. But tough loss. A tough loss for real. Milton saying, good morning. Glad to have you with us this morning. Let's see what else we got going on for today. Jump back over here to the ESPN feed. Shake up in the top 25. Still early. And then, of course, the big story, and I saw it on Sunday when I was watching, on Monday night when I was watching the game. Aaron Rodgers has torn his Achilles tendon. That's a season-ending injury. You could tell when it happened that he was really bothered by it. I don't know as much about the pain as much as he may have known what it was. Aaron Rodgers will be 40 years old when he comes out of his rehab for fixing that. It was confirmed as season-ending tear on Tuesday by MRI. They're going back to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson made a better showing. As Ford said yesterday, sometimes maybe you need somebody to push you and kind of get you focused on what you need. I don't think, Robert Salas, the head coach, said, I don't know why people are trying to put an obituary under our team name. Well, I don't think they are, but I don't think your hopes of making a Super Bowl are nearly as good. Now, here's the thing. This is where a lot of this will come into play. Can he rehab from this at his age and make a comeback? That's a tough injury, a torn Achilles. Very, very tough. Now, will they pick up somebody else behind him? I just don't know. He'll make his 23rd start on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys, who were a 40-0 winner over the New York Giants. I don't think that's saying a whole lot because the New York Giants are not very good at this point. Lincoln Pauly, good morning. I'm with you, Milton. That might be career-ending because it may be too much to try to come back for at his age and to be able to play that he wants to play. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens there. Bills owner Terry Pagula, I think that's right, made racist comments according to a lawsuit that's been brought. He made a racist comment about black players in the NFL, according to a racial discrimination lawsuit that was filed Tuesday by longtime reporter Jim Trotter. Trotter alleges in a lawsuit in 2020, a fellow NFL media reporter recalled a conversation he had with Pegula, who was speaking to the reporter about the NFL's social justice initiatives and Black Lives Matter. The reporter, who was not identified in the lawsuit, told Trotter and approximately 40 other members on a Zoom call if the black players don't like it here, they should go back to Africa and see how bad it is. This is a new owner for the Bills. This will be interesting how this plays out. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're going to build a new stadium. I mean, a big stadium, multi-billion-dollar stadium. So we'll see where that goes and kind of how that turns out. That's something that popped up yesterday as well after we got off the air. Taking a look in the college football world and what's going on there. Big games coming up. Juju and I talk about a little bit about it. Going back to the Mel Tucker thing, he denies the claim, calls Michigan State University hearing a sham. And we'll see how that plays out. The NCAA received violent threats in wake of denying Tez Walker eligibility. The NCAA board, Division I board chair said in a statement, violent and possibly criminal threats have been directed at committee members in the wake of the high-profile decision denying immediate eligibility for UNC receiver Tez Walker. In the statement, they were troubled by public remarks North Carolina leaders have made about the case. Coach Mack Brown and Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham both slammed the decision last week and pointed comments taking direct aim at the NCAA. Now, we'll see what happens and how that comes out. I think the days of the NCAA are limited, and really there's a timeline that's going to come up because they have played out their usefulness. They only get involved on stuff like this. They don't take the lead on anything, and yet they want to sit there and control everything. Making Walker ineligible for 23. Now, I made this statement before, and the other side of it is he's going to be of age where he can go to the pros if he wants to after this, because the NFL says you've got to be 3 years post-high school to be eligible for the draft. So he's going to be there, if I'm not mistaken. He set out a year, now he's got to set out another year, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. My question is this just another sign that it's time for the NCAA to go away where they're at? Link says UNC will never pay any attention to the NCAA. After all, they play in the Cheat Dome. As you can tell, Lincoln is not a Carolina fan. But I think they do have a point here, Link. I'll be honest with you. They don't have the same rules for everybody. And I think it's time that the premier programs pull out. Now, when I say pull out, that means you get to write your own set of rules. And you do that, I think these schools that pull out, I think you have to go to contracts and you're going to have to try to tie these players down for a little bit longer, kind of like they do in the NFL. Just going to be honest with you. It's the wild, wild west out there right now. And you're going to have some order to it. If the big boys pull out, then a lot of that NIL money will have to go with them, and I'm not sure that the other folks that are left will have the kind of monies that they need to pay them. Is there a happy answer to this? No. Do I like it? No. I want it back where you're playing for the university because you want to be there. But, guys, those days are gone. When they brought in NIL with no limitations, when they brought in the transfer portal with very little control over that, what are you going to do? I'm still not so sure. Well, it's already destroyed, Link. He says that's for sure NCAA is done. Paying the players will destroy college football. It already has. I think the top-tier programs are shells of themselves, of what they used to be. You don't have to really do the things in school. You don't have to make a commitment to the school. That's the part that's got it. I think sometimes it helps. You look at what Deion's done at Colorado. He told folks that if you don't fit in my system, you need to go on. And that's okay. They made a coaching change. I think kids should be allowed to go without any type of penalty. And with the Walker kid, he should be able to go do anything he wants to once they shut his program down. He could not play. They didn't have a program to play back in COVID. I just don't like it because the NCAA sits up there and tries to view everything from this point of view, and I'm going to make decisions based on that. The other side of it is I feel the same way about the High School Athletic Association. Now, they have taken a step back because now they're a little more controlled by the legislature, which is not any better. Legislature doesn't need to be playing in high school sports. I'm pretty sure that the state of North Carolina's got more important things going on. How to make budgets, how to balance budgets, how to keep from fighting and run the government instead of trying to do things against each other's party. It's crazy. Link said schools creating classes which are not real and giving players credits for the class. That's exactly what I'm saying, Link. I think the answer to that is kids go play for a university. You take the academic portion out of it. They're like a sponsored team, like a club team, so that your university can get behind them. But right now it's just not handled right. The other side of it is the NCAA, kind of like the High School Athletic Association, they don't have any real power because nobody that's up under them has authorized them to do things with their power, especially the NCAA. The college presidents, chancellors, whoever's in charge, they control what their university does, not the AD, not anybody else. That's who's controlling. I don't see these college and university presidents giving that up. I don't see them giving that up at all because that's too much power to give up. Until they do that, and a group can come together and they a couple things. They don't need 10-year broadcast contracts. That's crazy. That needs to stop. A lot of things happen in 10 years. They try to plan games 10 years out. You can't do that as well. So some of that stuff's going to have to stop, and they're going to have to fix that. But until they do, it's still going to be the pile of steaming stuff that Milton talks about. And I kind of got to agree with that as well. Let's see. How about some prizes? Some prizes over the weekend. We didn't get into a whole lot of it yesterday. If you look at the scores from the weekend, some of the teams that were a little bit surprising, Clemson struggled in the first half. They finally pulled it together, but they did not look good, and they're heading to one more tune-up game against Florida Atlantic, and then it's Clemson and Florida State. You'll find out where that's at. You'll find out quickly where that's at. We touched on a couple of games. Ohio State over Youngstown State, 35-7. I thought that was a little low for that. Southern Cal beat Stanford 56-10. Penn State over Delaware 63-7. Washington over Maiden, born and bred head coach at Tulsa 43-10. Tennessee Austin Peay was 30-13. That was a 13-6 ball game at the half. A little closer. Colorado's headed for a showdown with Oregon. Oregon beat Texas Tech 38-30. Grambling fell to LSU 72-10. Kansas State beat Troy 42-10. Let me tell you just a quick funny story about Troy. When I was traveling with Appalachian, we went to Troy to play a game, and it was September. And the funny part about it was there was nobody there. Nobody. We asked the question, where's everybody at? They said, well, there's two things that's hurting us for today. One of them, Alabama's playing at home, so everybody was in Tuscaloosa. The number two one, deer season opened up, so everybody was out in the woods hunting deer. Richie says that the NCAA released a statement yesterday, and in that statement they cited that mental health does not necessarily support a waiver request. They also stated that they believe that transfers should have a year to acclimate to their new school and academics. If that's the case, every freshman should be ineligible. When I played, Richie, every freshman was ineligible. Freshmen could not play in a varsity game. But the problem is they don't have those rules. When you start saying should and maybe we should do this, no. That doesn't work. That doesn't float in anybody's sandbox. You got to be consistent with what you do. Let me take a break. When I come back, Juju will join us. We'll be back here in a minute on The Bottom Line.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home.
First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back to the Bottom Line. And Fort Lawn here on a Wednesday, Hump Day Wednesday morning, almost halfway through the month of September. Football is in full swing. We'll bring back a feature we've done many times in the past, finally getting back on schedule. We'll bring Juju Phillips on. We'll talk a little fall sports and basically just whatever's on his mind. Good morning to you, sir.
Lanny, good morning. As always, pleasure to join you either by phone or in person.
The Lenore Ryan Bears got off to a pretty good start this weekend, I would say. And that was their second game, was it not?
It was. It was. They played a good team, a team that made the NCAA Division II playoffs a year ago. They went to Fayetteville State down in Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. First time ever they played there. And they jumped out to a big lead, or 24-0 at halftime, and held on to win 24-10. Good all-around performance for the Bears. Probably could do a lot better offensively. They kind of struggled a bit, little uneven performance. But their defense set up all their scores, Lanny. They had 5 turnovers, and of the 5, 4 of them went for scores, 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Set up their offense quite well. And in the second half, I think probably offensively, LR got very conservative. They had a big lead. They didn't want to take any chances. And they let their defense do most of the heavy lifting. And they played well. Anytime you go on the road, and that's not an easy place to play. We had an hour and a half delay because of the weather. And it was just something that LR jumped out to a big lead. I think they're going to hang their hat this year on their defense. It's ranked 5th in the country right now in terms of total defense and points per game and all that stuff. But they're playing very well offensively. Mm-hmm. Defensively, offensively, they got some things to work on. Offensive line, as you well know, is probably the last thing that always comes around. It's the latest, it's the largest group. It's got to gel together. And they're struggling a bit trying to run the football. They got a veteran unit, except for a couple of guys up front on the offensive line, but their wide receivers and skill players are all veteran players that have been around for 2 or 3 years. So you would expect them to maybe get back on track, maybe as early as this week, but definitely when the conference season gets really going, when they have to play a Newberry or a Wingate or a Limestone, that offense does not perform like it should, then the Bears are going to be, performing behind the 8 ball, so to speak.
If it's not one of the things that you first point to is lack of experience, you're saying that the majority of the experience there, what would you attribute it to? Have there been major changes in offensive philosophy on how they want to run?
We got a new offensive line coach, their third offensive line coach in 3 years. I think probably the fact that they are trying to find an identity offensively in terms of running the football. 2 years ago, they were among the best teams in the country at running the ball. They had a running back, Dwayne McGee, who's still with the team. He rushed for over 1,000 yards a couple of years ago, struggled a bit last year. This year, he was suspended for a game. Last week, he came back into action this past week against Fayetteville State. But they just don't seem to be clicking right now, Lanny, for whatever reason. The quarterback play has been uneven. He had open receivers last week and just he's not making mistakes. He's just not being as accurate as he could. The first game, he threw for 70% of completions. Last week, he was very uneven. He was a little over 50%. And they're not making the big plays. I think they're just being very conservative and looking to, whenever they play the good teams, they're going to hang their hat on their defense and let the defense do their deal and let the offense take advantage of, mistakes like we saw last week. But I don't think they're a big play offense. I don't think they're going to be, unless they get the run game going, and that all starts with up front. And, again, because of that offensive line, they got to gel together. They got 2 guys that are first-year starters. One's the right guard and the other's the left guard. So those interior guys are trying to learn that offense for LR, and it's taken a while, a little bit at least, against some teams that I wouldn't say are the very best, Lanny. So the schedule's going to get a little bit tougher after this week. So when they get into conference play, so if the offensive line can improve and they can get back to running the ball with that identity that they like to, be very physical, then I think they'll be okay. If not, then they're going to struggle offensively.
Where do you think their strength lies on offense? Do they try to run between the tackles? Or are they an edge team? Or are they what I call an outside veer team? It sounds like they're struggling with the offense a little bit. It could be from pass protection from their inside guards, or if they're trying to run the ball between the tackles, it would be an issue.
I think it all starts on first down. From what I've seen, other teams have obviously seen what LR does. Bears do not pass it on first down. Rarely do they pass it. And so on first down, they load the box. And last week was a great case. They could not run the ball on first down. Instead, set up second down and long. So I would guess maybe opening it up a little bit on first down to get people, off crowding the line of scrimmage, and maybe with some short throws on first down, build the confidence of the quarterback. We saw a little bit of that in the first game, and again, it's so early. Last week's game offensively, when you're getting ready to play, you're 10 minutes away from kickoff, and all of a sudden storm comes and they shut it down, and for an hour and a half you're just sitting around. So the defense was ready to go, the offense was not. And until they play a team that has really, really good defensive team or is a really good competitor, I don't know. Offensively, we're going to see what the Bears can actually do, because they were okay last year. They were better than average. They averaged 35 points a game a year ago, and most of those guys are back except for those 2 interior linemen that I spoke about. Most everybody else is back. They're all starters. They got 8 or 9 starters on the offensive side of the football, 10 over on the defensive side. So they're a veteran unit. It's just they haven't put it together yet.
Just from a team makeup in itself, one of the biggest topics around with anybody, especially as you watched how Colorado has played, really basically building that team from the transfer portal. Has the transfer portal helped, hurt or made really no difference to LR this year?
It hasn't made any difference. It really hasn't. It hasn't helped. It hasn't hurt. They have some guys that they got in the transfer portal, but they're not really contributing, if at all, maybe on the special teams. But because they were a veteran unit over on the defensive side, like I said, they got 10 starters back, and they got depth on the defensive side. They run in 6 to 8 defensive linemen. They have 4 good linebackers that they rotate quite a bit. Their secondary's been playing quite well as well. And what they're doing is they're bringing in guys and developing them, especially on the defensive side. Offensive side, they have 4 running backs. All 4 have been in the program for 3 years now at least. The quarterback has been in the program for 3 years. The wide receivers have been in the program for 3 or 4 years. So they haven't really – Mike Jacobson, he's been on the show before. He said he'd much rather build from within and maybe go out and sprinkle in a couple of transfers to fill a need. Mm-hmm. Now, they just haven't had a need offensively. Maybe they needed to go out and find a couple of transfer offensive linemen. But again, except for those 2 interior guys on the guard position, those 2 positions were really the only openings that they probably could have had. They got a transfer from, let's say, Campbell University, mm-hmm. an offensive lineman, but he didn't make it past training camp. So I don't know how much of a effort that Coach Jacobs and LR have really made to go in the transfer portal and bring in players. We saw last week against Fayetteville State, they had 37 on their roster that were transfers from Western Carolina, ECU, Division I schools. So we'll see how they do later on. They were the defending champions in the CIAA and made the playoffs a year ago. So it helped them. I just don't think it's in LR's philosophy to go out and try to, go in the transfer portal and bring in a bunch of players. But traditionally, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 to fill a need. That's probably the way to go.
You did mention earlier, talking about that offensive line, 3rd offensive line coach in 3 years. What do you attribute that to? Well,
the first offensive line coach is now the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. Okay. So he's still on staff. Last year's offensive line coach came from California, and he went back to went back to California or a place where he had a connection with the coach. This year's offensive line coach was a Division I All-American, Tyler Orlovsky, at West Virginia. He was the offensive coordinator at Ohio Dominican, which is a Division II school in Columbus, Ohio. And I think Coach Jacobs had a connection, so he brought him in. And so, again, it's starting all over. This guy seems to have a little bit more of a resume. He's been a Division I All-American offensive lineman at WVU. And so maybe, it's still early. They only played 2 games, and maybe his offensive line unit will gel. They'll get better a little bit later on in the season. Again, I just think because of stability, that offensive line, you well know, it's the last group to come along and gel. Oh, yeah. And they've had different people leading the way each and every year. Now, Coach Jacobs helps out. He's an all-offensive lineman, long snapper himself. So he helps out, and he has some ideas of what the way that offensive line wants to perform. It's just the fact that maybe teams have figured them out. I don't know. Maybe they're just struggling a bit to run the football. Maybe it's in philosophy. Maybe it's in the way they practice. It could be all of that. It could be a little bit of all of that in why they're struggling offensively.
Well, they still got plenty of time to kind of get it together. What else is going on in your world, sir?
Well, there's not, besides what we're doing with LR football and what we follow with college football, but it's been such a surprise, and you guys have talked about it, that in college football right now with what's going on in the transfer portal, what Mac Brown has said about the NCAA, I have not been surprised about some of the, I don't say surprises, that we've seen in college football, especially with Colorado and some of the other teams that have taken to the transfer portal and done well. I think the ACC has done much better than what people would have expected, minus Clemson probably. But the ACC seems to be, I don't want to say the second-best conference right now, playing the second-best, maybe, behind the SEC. I don't know. but they're playing awfully well. It seems like top to bottom, much better than some of the other big leagues are right now. But I guess the big question is that game coming up in a couple of weeks, Clemson and Florida State, is that going to be the game that determines who gets into the playoff this year out of the ACC or not?
You know, there's been a few teams that I think expectations were higher in college football that just hasn't quite materialized. One of those is a big game coming up this weekend when Tennessee travels to the Swamp to take on Florida. Florida really has gotten off to a very rocky start, and a lot of folks had them really moving forward this year.
Yeah, they struggled offensively. And, again, when you start playing games in late August and early September and you lose a game or two and you're playing your really tough opponents, you really put you on notice. I just think there's a whole heck of a lot of football to play, but you don't want to get down 0-2 and 0-3. Mm-hmm. But it makes you wonder that some of these college teams that they practice more than they've ever practiced, Lanny. I mean, they have all these drills in the spring. They have summer workouts. They bring in kids and work out throughout the summer. And then when the season starts, they have the fall training camp and all that. But unlike in the NFL, they just start their season, go. I mean, there's no exhibition, no preseason at all. They don't play each other. They don't have, these organized practices against another team. So I think that's why you see some struggles. Some teams struggle early in the season and then come on late in the season. And one of the reasons is because right out of the gate in college football, you're playing games that matter, that count, and except when you play these cupcake games. But for the most part, that's what happens. And maybe that's one of the reasons why you see some teams struggling is because they don't have time. They don't have a preseason game or two to get ready, right, like you see in the NFL.
What do you make of the phenomenon known as the Colorado Buffaloes?
That the fact that Coach Deion Sanders or Coach Prime has been able to get all those kids on board so quickly, in what they're wanting to do. Now, he has a quarterback, his son obviously, that knows the system, knows what they want. They brought in an offensive coordinator that apparently Coach Prime has looked at and said, this is going to be perfect for my son and this offense that we're going to run. But to do what he has done, and they got an easy game against Colorado State this week, so you would expect a little bit of a letdown, but they still should probably win. But to do what he has done and to just basically overhaul a Division I program, to bring in, would they bring 80, 85 guys in?
Yeah.
70-some left. So in 3 or 4 months? Mm-hmm. It's I don't know how many schools are going to follow the same model, but to do what he has done has been simply phenomenal. And he uses the media to probably, get his team fired up, and uses the psychological stuff that a lot of coaches still use. But it's, his team against the rest of the world. He's always trying to figure out somebody that's not on board in the media with him, and they pick on each other. But what they've done on the football field is been phenomenal, and I don't think it's ever been done in college football, at least with, since we've seen the transfer portal, for sure.
One final question before I let you go. ECU travels to Boone to take on App State. That's a 3:30 game coming up this weekend. App State took North Carolina to the wire. I watched that game. If it had been me, I would have went for it instead of playing for the tie. I thought Appalachian was playing better than that, but hey, I'm here talking on the radio, and Sean Clark is coaching App State, so there's a big difference there. But there is a tie-in locally, as Mike Houston, head coach of East Carolina, be traveling up to Boone, and we're all familiar with Mike.
Yeah, they're struggling. We talked to Mike earlier in the summer, and we had him on the show, and he mentioned a little bit that they got a whole new offense. They got a new quarterback, new running backs, and they're struggling offensively. And I saw a little bit of the highlights against Michigan, and then last week Marshall pretty much controlled the game. They just don't have a quarterback nor a running attack right now. They got to figure out. And Donnie Kirkpatrick, our buddy, one of my former teammates at LR, he's the offensive coordinator, and he's been with Mike all the way back to his days at James Madison when he won a national championship. So they got to figure out offensively who they are, what their identity is, and they got to find a quarterback. And my principal here at Jacobs Fork Middle School is a big East Carolina guy. he pretty much agrees that they're going to struggle until they are able to develop somebody to replace Holden Ehlers at quarterback last year for ECU. And until they do, Coach Houston is going to struggle, at least offensively. Defensively, their teams play rough. They're very physical, but when their offense is not on, they're 3 and out. They're not getting much done. They're not, scoring a lot of points. Then the defense is out on the field too much, and they get worn down. But this is going to be a big game for them. They do not want to go down 0-3 in their conference, or at least the start of the season. If they do, then it might be a long season for the Pirates this year.
Is this Mike's third year?
I believe it's third, or maybe it's fourth year.
Okay, I wasn't sure how long, because that's your third year is usually that transition year when you start to see your work start to transition. But if he's having to play a brand new quarterback, and look at the roster, they got 5 quarterbacks on the roster. The problem is, out of the 5, 3 freshmen, 1 sophomore, and 1 junior. So there's no experience there.
No, you're right, and it's probably fans will probably tell you at ECU that they have not been able to develop somebody outside of Holton Ehlers, who was the quarterback there, seemed like forever.
Mm-hmm.
So until they lost one, they had 5 or 6 guys make it, but they were in NFL training camps. So they lost a lot of weapons offensively last year, and they had a good year last year. And so they're trying to fill in and figure out who they're going to, again, like a lot of teams this time of the year, what is their identity going to be? Are they going to be a power running game? Or are they going to try to throw the ball deep or just throw it around? Donnie Kirkpatrick has a background in the air raid offense, so they're going to be a team eventually that throws the ball around quite a bit, like we've seen from the Mike Leach's kind of disciples along the way. He coached with Lincoln Riley at East Carolina years ago. So we'll see what they're going to do. I got a feeling, since Coach Houston will probably like to keep the reins a little bit tight and not take so many chances. But when you're 0-2, going to possibly going 0-3, they're definitely an underdog. You might see them maybe throw caution to the wind and throw the ball around a little bit this week.
Yeah, you're going to definitely have to open up that playbook a little bit. Anything else, sir?
That's about it, Lanny. Big high school football game Friday for East Lincoln. They go to Hickory to take on the Red Tornadoes, and 2 of the better high school football teams around this area this year.
And that could very well be for who's going to be number 1 in that conference at the end of the season as well.
Yeah, it probably will be. They seem to be the 2 top teams in that league this year.
It does. All right, sir, we appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time with us this morning. We'll get you back in here quick as we can.
All right. How's the season going for you guys? I've not been keeping up.
You're talking about our little team?
Yes.
Not good, since we got rained out last night. That storm came through. Okay. We were supposed to have our first game. Now we're going to play 3 in 7 days. We play Saturday, next Tuesday, and the following Saturday. Of course, kids that age would probably rather play than practice anyway.
You're right. Well, good luck to you, my friend.
All right, my friend. We'll talk to you later. Juju Phillips, always a pleasure to have him on the show, and we'll get our schedules worked out and get him back in studio on a more regular basis. Now to wrap it up for us for today, for The Bottom Line, hope you have a wonderful Hump Day Wednesday. Remember to be back in the morning. We'll do it all again right here on The Bottom Line. Have a good one, folks.